Hey y'all, it's Miriam with Tea Time Tales, and I am tired. It's been a long day. But we're still going to talk about some stories. So grab your favorite hot drink, and let's get started. Today we're talking about originality. We're comparing Deku from My Hero Academia and Marvel's Captain America. How are these two very different stories connected? Very similar, yet original in their own way. I want to talk about originality. What does that mean? Because it's so approached in a subjective way, and while it is a subjective concept, it's also not as mysterious as it's often treated. So let's analyze these stories and find out what makes something original. I love My Hero Academia. It's about a young boy who doesn't have power, then gets power, and all he wants to do is save people, and he's gonna save the world. In the most vague sense, that's the story, if you haven't seen it. Deku is a young boy, again, born powerless, but he wants to help people, and he comes to a point where he meets his idol, which his name is All Might. All Might embodies heroism and being the strongest, what that is, and he finally asks him, if I don't have a superpower, how they call it quirks, if I don't have a quirk, can I be a hero still? Deku is crushed when All Might says, no, you can't be. All of his dreams are just dust, but he still wants to help people. So when his friend is in trouble, a villain is attacking him, he goes, helps him. All Might realizes then that yes, he has the heart of a hero. All Might decides to give him his power, which is unheard of in the world. On the other hand, Captain America, he also starts out without any superpower, and he just wants to do his part. He wants to be with his brothers on the front lines of the war and help fight people. There's a very defining moment when he meets Dr. Erskine, who's the only person who gives him a chance, the first person to give him a chance. And he asks him, do you want to? And Cap says, I don't want to kill anybody. He doesn't like bullies. And so that's why he's going to go fight. Now they might sound only slightly similar when you look at their beginning in this way. But if we break down both plots to their simplest form, we see that it's the same type of idea of superheroes in a superhuman world. It's the same. They both start out without power, then their mentor comes along, giving them the opportunity to have power, because Erskine was also the guy that not only allowed Cap into the army, but also chose him to be the first super soldier. Well, I suppose second if you count Red Skull. Looking at their beginning in this way, we've already caught on to the first major point. I was taught to call them whammies, so we're calling them whammies. Whammy 1. Deku meets All Might. Captain America meets Erskine. Whammy 2. Deku works super hard and receives All Might's power. Captain America works super duper hard in boot camp and becomes the second super soldier, receiving the power from Erskine. Whammy 3. The dark moment, the big twist, the big oh no moment. Deku tries to save All Might, but realizes in his attempt he's about to die. Captain America defeats Red Skull, but realizes that in order to save everybody, he has to crash this gigantic plane and sacrifice himself. Whammy 4, the final showdown. Deku ends up being saved by other heroes, All Might is saved, and all the villains are dealt with. Cap dies. Whammy 5. tying up loose ends, Deku learns what it means to be a hero and the threat that they're up against as he recovers from his first battle. Captain America, he wakes up in the modern world and has to face a new reality. I'm not in Brooklyn anymore. Now we've already heard some similarities with me laying out the very basic points of the plots, but let's look at them. Let's just list them. Why not? With Deku and Captain America, they both started powerless with a desire to help others. Both met mentors who gave them power and set them on the right path. Both had to work hard for their tails to take off for them to receive power. Both were willing to die to save people. Both had to face a new reality, a big just paradigm shift. So, do you see that these stories, they are not what you would say two peas in a pod when it comes to similarities. One's Japanese and a modern world that's futuristic and everybody has superpowers. One is in the early 1900s of America and there's no such thing, or it's unheard of basically for there to be superpowered humans. Completely different countries, completely different cultures and languages and worlds and all these things, and yet we've listed several points where they match up one for one, yet both are unique in their own right. So this begs the question, how are these so iconic? What makes them so unique? And how are they so original and yet similar at the same time? If you take everything you've ever seen and you boil it down to its most basic components, you will find similarities. And that's what we did here with Captain America and Deku. But although they started in a very similar place, they went in different directions. Captain America ends up going on to be part of the Avengers, and Deku ends up growing more with his class to develop his superpower in an academic kind of circumstance. So those are extremely different ways in which they went, but they started in the same place. The point I'm making here is if you want to be original and you have a basic idea, don't worry about it being original, because there are going to be similarities. The more basic the idea, the more similar it's going to be to anything else you've ever seen. So if you're trying to make some story that's super unique, that's yours, well, that's awesome. Go for it. And don't worry about being original in the beginning, because you're not going to be the first ever to think of this whatever world it is, like a underwater world. Atlantis. Voltron had a planet that was underwater. It's been done, but it's okay. You can make it yours. How do you make it yours? Well, it comes down to principle. Even if the plot line is the same and has the same starting points and before diverging, the thing that causes them to diverge is both you, your own style, personality, and choices, and two, it's the principle. The principle of what you do is what's going to drive every single choice that you make. And it also determines or helps determine the ending of the story. And that's what your characters move toward. When you have a clear and intentional principle or lesson that overall that you're teaching, that is what's going to make it more and more original, more yours. For My Hero Academia, Season 1, I would say that the principal theme was having the courage to stand and fight for others is the potential that can make you into a hero. That was my takeaway. For Captain America, I would say one good man can be the difference between war and peace. Simple. And yet, those two principles are not the same. Nope, not the same. And that is what drives each story. So if you figure out what your principle is and you're clear clear. One sentence, maybe two. That's all you get. If you can't condense it down, it's not specific enough and it's going to conflict. It's going to make things more difficult because it's messy. Make your theme, goal, lesson simple. Put it into words and then go towards that goal. That is what's going to give you originality. Knowing this is a great tool for you to use when you're analyzing a story. If you're having trouble coming up with an idea, look at examples, scenes, stories, books that you know that you've seen that did it well. And then isolate the aspects that you want to bring out in your own story. Think about your principal goal, think about the situation, and choose to not make it the exact same as the example. That's called plagiarism. But learn from it. And when you look at something constructively, and you can take that to add to your own, that is one of the biggest things that's going to boost you along the way. When you're struggling with scenes, when you're out of ideas, when you are worried about being original, go back to the root. What is the story principle? And look at examples. Ask for help. Don't fall into the trap of originality. The more specific you get as you develop your world and your principle and your goals, it'll become yours and unique to you. So just don't worry about it. It's okay. Let it go. Have a great rest of your day, afternoon, lunch, evening, whatever, and keep writing. All right, see you in the next one. That's good. Well, y'all, I hope you had an educational time. I mean, it was quite a time trying to get those skits recorded. So we put a lot of effort into this. We want to create something good. And by we, I mean me and the lack thereof present sister, Rebecca. She's not here, but that's okay.